Hello and welcome back to the 2021 NNP Symposium. This hour I am joined by Richard Jozefiak, who is the ANA Outreach Programs Coordinator as well as Committee Chairperson. Thank you for joining us, Richard.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before I pass this off to him, just a quick reminder, feel free to use the Q&A feature on your all's devices to ask questions throughout the presentation. We'll save those for the end and we'll answer those as we have time. But without further ado, I'll pass it on to Richard.
Well, thank you. And thank you for attending this presentation. I am Richard Jozefiak, and I live in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area. If you look at your screen, you should see the two boxes, and between the two, there should be a parallel bar or two like double lines. If you click on that and drag the bar to the right, it will make the one box larger so you can see my slides better, because I will have some detailed slides, and you probably don't need to see me very large. And this will make your viewing easier too. I would like to take this time to thank the Numismatic portal for sponsoring my presentation and also the symposium. And I've listened to some other presentations and they've been very enjoyable. Something about my collecting, I've been collecting elongated coins for about 35 years. So I have a few in my collection. And this presentation I put together was to come up with a background in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes on what elongated coins are and their history. Okay. Here we go. In the beginning, what you're looking at is one of the first commercial elongated squash cents pressed penny that was done. And it was tied to the 1893 Columbian Exposition in Chicago, Illinois. If you look at it, it's very, very basic. It's nothing more than a hand punch of letters and numbers. Hand punches are about 3 to 4 inches long, and they come in a set. And you have normally capital letters, the 10 digits, 0 to 9, and some characters, star, dot, backspace, or slash, something like that. And these were used in the manufacturing area for machinery markings, park markings, etc. And there were different sets. I actually worked with hand punches in my very early career, and it takes some skill to use them. But they're used to mark machineries, to put in park numbers, serial numbers, put in lettering, or things like that. The sets came in different sizes. You had small size to very large size punches. I was never very skilled. I can, put in the numbers and letters, but some of the senior people who were doing this for decades, they could look at what had to be stamped on a piece of hardware and get it done within minutes. And they were so accurate, it looked like type, because they knew exactly how to place a hard hit with a maybe 6-pound hammer. And what you're looking at is that same technique put on a circular die. It says Columbian Exposition, 1893. The letters are all the same font, everything's the same size. And the end, you see 2 stars, which was typical. Collecting elongated coins. Well, unlike collecting other series, there is no active price guides for elongated coins. We have no gray sheet, no Numismatic news, no really online pricing or whatever. There's no uniform grading standards. It's either they look nice, they don't look nice. You may have some discoloration or not pressed enough or something like that. Definitely not for investment. This is strictly not investment grade material. And third-part coins there are some very rare third-part slabbings, but that's really not typical. It's very much the exception. And why we collect? Well, for fun. There is a national organization called the Elongated Collectors, TEC for short, and we do it for fun. People in the hobby who collect elongated coins are just doing it for fun. This is not any sort of investment or return of revenue. You can find elongated coins in most dealers' junk boxes Sometimes for a dime each, or expensive one maybe $20 to $30. Okay, where it all got started. The field of collecting in my life, I call it elongated cents, but they're known by many different names depending on who you talk to. They're known as pressed pennies, squash pennies, road cents, and many other names. And don't be fooled by the word cents. I have seen dimes, nickels, quarters, and I will show you a dollar that was rolled. But the majority of things rolled are cents. They're not collected just in the U.S., but overseas too. I have done rolling of cents equivalents in Australia, in France, in Great Britain, in Canada. So this is just not a U.S. phenomenon. This is also now picked up in a lot of places overseas. So that when you travel in most Western Europe, we say Australia, New Zealand, Canada, you can find rolling machines. You can get information from online. They all trace their history to the 1893 Columbian Exposition in Chicago. This is the first documented commercial selling of elongated coins. And elongated coins are part of the numismatic field known as exonumia. This is the part of the collecting area that includes medals, tokens, hobo nickels, love tokens, things like that. Here's a picture of the Columbian Exposition. It was all white. It was very, very large. It was over 600 acres. It opened on May 1st of 1893 and closed. You may be familiar with some of the commemoratives that came out of this, like the Columbian half dollar or the Isabella quarter and things like that. Admission was 50 cents. But to give you the scope of this exposition, the population of the U.S. in the 1890 was about 63 million people, and it was recorded that about 27.5 million people attended. So basically 1/3 of the country. That's a huge turnout. That would be like today having some event and you would have 100 million people coming to it. It showcased the latest technologies, and because you had so many people coming from all over, not just the U.S., but even other parts of the world, people wanted souvenirs. And somebody came up with the idea of rolling cents. If you look on the picture, that's Mr. Ray Dillard. He passed away just last year. He was a past president of Tech. He has a basic rolling machine you see in front of him. And this machine was used at fun, at the ANA shows, and some other shows. If you look, you can see here's the press. You put the penny in here, and the die is right here. And here's the hand crank, a very long hand crank to make it easy to turn. And he would turn out elongated cents with a show theme on it. In 1893, a vendor would buy a license. They sold licenses not just for permanent buildings, but for vendors that were basically day vendors to walk around in different areas. And somebody came up with the idea of, hey, I can have one of these rolling machines, which was used in industry at the time to make pieces of metal thinner, parts or whatever. And they put on the die, and I'll show you that, some Texas stuff, and created a souvenir and realized they can make a lot of money off of it. It was all done by manual, and because you could feed in, as long as you could get it inside and you're willing to crank it, you can make some interesting impressions on not just cents. The person who did the rolling would charge 5 to 10 cents, and you had to provide what you wanted to roll. So we have examples of not just US cents, but foreign countries, cents or other equivalents or tokens, whatever the person wanted done. So as long as the vendor could fit in the machine and was willing to turn the handle, they were willing to do it. One interesting thing is there's no known pictures of a rolling vendor at the exposition. And the reason is probably the state of photography at this time was that there was not the casual camera like the Kodak Brownie camera. That did not come into being until 1900. So this time period, you have professional people taking photographs, and they did it in daylight. If you look at them, they're pretty much all staged because somebody is paying them to take a picture of their exhibit, of their building, whatever. I think if you had a person doing rolling, you would ask them to move out of the picture just because they would not want them in the picture. So it would be interesting if anybody ever came across something like that. I know people that have looked. I have looked myself in Chicago when I went to the Museum of Science and Industry, because they do have a very large collection of memorabilia from the Columbian Exposition, including photographs, but I have not seen any photos that I can find. Here's an example of 1893. All the designs are basic. On the left here is a ribbon. They had days named for whatever. This was Manhattan Day, named for Manhattan, New York. And their day was October 21st, 1893. And here's examples of, here's a dime. Here is a nickel on a 5-cent piece. And here is a interesting one on some sort of foreign coin. All this was hand stamped with numbers and letters. And we know at least of 24 different types, because the spacing is not the same. Some have stars, some do not. The date is upper or lower, but they all say Columbian 1893 Exposition. Here's a larger photo of it, and you can see here clearly Columbian 1893 Exposition. Same thing on the top and at the bottom here. And in my collection, this is probably, this whole set, my most expensive piece. I actually got it at the 2014 A&A silent auction, and this was donated to the A&A by Ray Dillard. So I think it's a pretty nice set, especially with the ribbon that was in it. Grading, NGC will grade or slab elongated cents. So far, I know of no other third-party service that does this. I checked the population report, and there's been about 100 of these elongated coins graded, and most of them are from the early expositions because of the cost of grading. You really don't want to grade, put something in a slab that you paid 51 cents for. So these coins are, this normally goes for about $30, but somebody spent about that much to get it put in an NGC slab. Now here's a comparison between 1893 and 1901. And here's the 1893 Columbian Exposition cents. Very, very basic. But I have to assume that it was very profitable, because by 1901, which is only 8 years later, look at the difference in the design. The new die for this thing has the building. And remember, you're graving this, somebody's doing this by hand on a circular die, reverse, so when it gets rolled out, it's going to be the correct image. And here's text around it. It says the Pan American Exposition. Here's the date, 1901, and the building here is the fair centerpiece, the electric tower. The 1901 was about half the size of the Columbian Exposition, but it's interesting to look at the details and the differences in just 8 years. So that gives me a good indication that somebody believed that there was a good profit margin in order to spend the time and effort to make a die like this compared to a basic hand punched letters and numbers. Here's a picture of a basic rolling machine. They have not changed very much. You have 2 rollers, because you have to have something going through the rollers. One of the rollers has the design in it, which will imprint it on the cent, and you have gears, of course, to help turn and provide the pressure to go through the rollers. And you have some adjustments here for thickness, because the cent is a different thickness than, say, a dime, which is thinner, a nickel, or a quarter. And these are still used at shows today. Why they call it elongated? Well, compared to coins produced by the U.S. Mint, coins produced by the U.S. Mint are struck with very high pressure, 70 to 500 tons, high speed, and there's 3 dies. You have the obverse, reverse, and a collar. That's the typical way coins are struck, and they're struck parallel. You have a flat surface, a plancher coming in, the 2 dies are flat, and they're hitting together. If you look at elongated coins, it's a rolling operation, not a striking operation. And most rolling machines are operated by hand or a slow rotating electric power machine. You could actually see the coin going in and be stretched out. So it's very slow compared to what the US Mint produces. One roll of die is used. There are some exceptions of having designs of two roll of dice to create a obverse reverse design, but that is the exception. And when you roll something flat between two rollers, it becomes stretched out. And that process is called elongation. And that stretches out the metal. And the amount of metal elongation is a function of the distance between the rollers, the type of metal of the coin, the force being applied during the rolling process, and condition of the coin, circulated versus uncirculated. And the metal process of elongation became elongated, which is a noun, and that's been used by collectors in the field since about the 1960s till today. There's three periods of elongated coins. There's the historic period, which is from 1893 to the 1960s, transition period, and the modern period. Let's go to the historic period first. The historic period, most everything was hand rolled. And this was because it was very simple to use. Designs were simpler and they became more complicated. And when you roll something on a flat like disc, a cent, you get distortion to it because of the rolling feature. And most of these coins that were rolled were done at high traffic areas, world fairs, expositions, and for short periods of time. They would be there when the event opened until it closed, and then you would not see them anymore. Transition period, that's from the mid-1960s to the early 1980s. During this time period, you're seeing everything going more electronic to operate the machines. Now they're being placed in zoos, amusement parks, museums for very long periods of time. No longer are they tied to a short period like an expo being open. They're now being placed in there almost permanently as long as the dice last. And design's distortion, though, are still a concern. You could tell the pieces from this period because, yes, they're using Lincoln cents, and they're using, seldom are they doing Wheaties. They're using the standard Lincoln Memorial back, but you're still getting distortion in the elongated items. And then we have the modern period, which is the 1980s to present. Coin-operated electric machines now with 3 to 4 designs out of instead of just one. You have multiple choices. Computer programs are now being used in the designs. And this is important because with the computer programs, a designer can do a design and the engraving process can take into account the distortion that's expected such that when it's rolled out, you do not have distortion. So that's all due to the computer programs that have been done to make the design look like there's hardly any distortion at all. And most of these logging machines still use the cent because one, it saves on the die life and it takes the least amount of force to roll and it's the least expensive thing to use in the machines. Here's a hand-rolled one, and this is actually my collection. One of my favorite ones. I have it here. You can see it. What it is of the Empire State Building. And what was interesting is the Empire State Building opened in 1931, and you have somebody that brought in a peace dollar, a 1922 peace dollar to roll. You can tell by the design that was designed for a cent. So somebody put it in and they wanted their peace dollar rolled. And you can see distortions in the letters and especially around the edge here along the little dots. You can see how some of them are thinner and they get fatter and thinner again. That's due to the distortion of rolling. But it's a very interesting piece, and I'm sure it took a lot of effort for the person rolling it to have a silver dollar go through the machine they have. Here's a penny machine circa mid-1970s, and you can actually see here's the rolling machine itself, exactly like the picture I showed, just in a very basic glass case with a change collector, and inside it says penny machine. This was located at the Anchorage Airport in a souvenir store. It had only one design, which is this. It was electric power, but as of 2009, that's the last I saw it, it was still in operation. And you put in 2 quarters in the cent you wanted, and you ran it. Now, a tip for doing better rolling, I prefer using pre-1982 cents. Prior to 1982, cents were 0.90 copper alloy. 82 was a transition year between the old copper cents and the new, just mostly zinc, copper, plated cents. The copper zinc cents, when they're rolled, the copper gets stretched out and the zinc's exposed, which turns black very quickly. So I always have rolls of pre-1982 cents just to make it easy for myself. So if I have an option to put in a cent, I could get a nice roll using a copper cent. Now, 3 dice versus 4 dice on a roller. This is modern, and this has to do with cost. The most expensive part of a rolling machine is the die roller. And you have a roller with 3 designs. You have a 1, 2, 3 configuration. Well, they figured out that by going to 4 designs, you get 4 on the same roller. And with computers, you can easily put a design that comes close, and you can still control where it rolls. So you have a 3 design roller versus a 4 design roller, and the 4 design roller is for options and cost. Here's a modern machine about circa 1990s, and you can see the 3 designs here being advertised, and they actually have a rolled cent next to it so you can actually see the size. Again, you have the rolling machine right here. This one, you put in the money and you don't have to crank anything, you just push the button. This was interesting. This is from Canada, 2013, near Niagara Falls. And this machine took both US quarters or Canadian quarters. And they used the US cents, which came from the machine. And the reason they used the US cent was because in Canada, it is illegal to deface the Queen on Canadian coins. So they used the US cent to make it legal. And again, you have, this one had 4 designs on it and a wheel to turn it. So you put in $1 worth and then you turn it, and the cent was provided by the machine. Here's another machine. This one's a hand crank at the US Space and Rocket Center, late 1990s. This one also had 4 designs. You can see here on the design selector, which as you turn it, turns the actual die to where you want it to be. Now, the problem with the hand crank is, one, older people and children have a problem turning it around, or they hit themselves with a very young kid, but they don't require electricity. So they can be placed any place and you can operate it. This is a long game machine in action. I'm going to show you a video. This one has 4 designs. Here's your selections. This one is electric. You get to push which one you wanted. If you look here, these are the gears that are going to power the die. The die is right here. You'll see it as it spins. There's 4 design. You put in your quarters and your cent. The cent drops down, and it waits until the computer tells it when the die is in the proper selection, drops down, and comes out here through the red chute. It's going to drop now. You can see the cent in the back in the center of the video. It's being pressed. You can see the designs rolling around, and there it comes out. And that's all for 51 cents. And if you don't have change, they actually have a change machine attached to get quarters. And that's something you need to be aware of. When you do a lot of elongates, you need to bring your own, plan to bring your own quarters and cents to use, little containers. I have found that today a lot of businesses are going cashless, and that's due to COVID. I was at a theme park in Florida recently, and pretty much everything there was cashless. And I had to get some quarters, and they had to send me around to a location that actually still had actual change. So you need to be more aware about where you go about getting change to operate their machines. Now, you have these new penny machines at different locations that you no longer need cents or quarters. They take debit cards, credit cards, dollar bills, and $5 bills. They also have 8 dies, basically 4 dies put together at the same spindle. All automatic. They have a video screen, and you could do 8 elongate very, very quickly. Plus, they have instructions and normally a little video on something on what's going on. If you look here, I'm going to show you another video. The dies are right here. One, you can see 2 together. They're actually 2 dies next to each other. Each one, there's 4 designs on them. And the cents are coming down this way. These gears are providing power to the drives to power the dies.
St. Louis Zoo, new machine.
And there you use credit card, Apple Pay, cash. So I'm seeing more of these type of machines at different locations. They have 8 designs. They take credit cards, and you just swipe your card, and it comes out. Now, I was talked about tech earlier, the elongated collector. We do have a quarterly newsletter. And what makes it nice is that the quarterly publication also comes with 1 to 4 elongated coins with it. And these are coins elongated, submitted by members, and then sent out. It's a very nice newsletter. Plus, there's vendor ads in it, so you can actually buy elongated items from people that make them and supplies. The tech also is normally at the ANA shows, the World's Fair of Money and the National Money Show in person. They're also at the Fun Show and some other shows across the country. Tech also produces annual sets for the ANA World's Fair of Money. They do one for the ANA show itself and one for Tech at the show. And you can see the design here, and they have the cent, nickel, dime, quarter, and either $50, dollar, or like here, there's 2 cents in it. And you can also find this at the Tech store, which has on the site, the technews.org/store, supplies, books, elongated coins and sets, and even DVDs. If you want information for being a Tech member, you can take a screenshot of this, cut it out and set it in, or you can go to the website, Tech News, or you can contact me and I will email you this form. And it's very affordable, and we have really reduced rates for young people, YNs. Now, how or what to collect? Well, there is no right or wrong way to collect. Different people have different standards of what they collect. Some people collect by period. They only want the historic, elongated cents prior to the 1960s. Other people only want things in their city, based on their state, or they do ballparks or theme parks. And I know people that do all that. I know people that like to buy and trade online. They look for people that make up elongated, like planes or people or things like that, by topic, animals, advertising. But collecting elongated coins is about fun. When we meet at the A&A shows, members, we don't talk about investment returns or anything. We talk about where we got the elongated, how we collect them, people we meet, sharing with other people. A lot of members make extra elongated coins to pass out at these shows. So it's all about fun. How to store coins? You can actually buy holders designed for elongated coins. There are 2x2 cover holders. You can get these on the tech site, or you can go online. There's a number of vendors that make them. How do I store it? I use a basic sheet, the 2x2s. I put them in the sheet that's 4x5, so I could get about 20. I always put a little like a tag of what it is, where the city I got it from, and the date, and then I put my collection in, and they put these in 3-ring binders. Not very high tech at all. Another thing too that's very popular to collect is the souvenir coin albums. A lot of places now, in order to have the complete set, you need to buy one of the albums, because if you look right here, this elongated set was not in any of the machines. So for me to have a complete set, I had to buy the album to get it. This one is for zoos, and I believe you can see it right down here, the animal. So these are sold now very commonly in theme parks, zoos, aquariums, but never store your coins in them. Even though they're designed for that, the plastic they use will tarnish the coins and make them dark very, very quickly. I keep my covers I buy in the little plastic bag that they are in to be sold. I never use them to store coins, but I do not take out the coins here because they're actually in this plastic, and I'd rather just keep the album together. But you can normally buy these anywhere from $4 to $6. And they normally have a colorful picture on the front, sometimes even the back too, and they just make an interesting part to collect. Where can you find the most elongated coins? Well, where the mouse rolls. Disney has the most elongated machines that I have seen, and they are prevalent, which and tells me that Disney's making money off these. Now, Disney owns their own machines. Disney owns all the dies and the machines, and the reason I know that, I actually went to one of their information booths, and they gave me this coin press map and checklist. And they told me that Disney owns all the rights and everything. Disney frequently changes out machines. Now, some people who collect anything Disney, others only buy theme park. So they told me if it's not within the theme park, like Epcot or the Magic Kingdom, they don't count it, because they have Disney machines now in hotels, in downtown Disney, in restaurants, and sports complex. I think it was over 400 when I lost count. And here is one sample page from Epcot. There's 30 pages like this in the book they gave me. And here it identifies the location of where the machine is and what's on the machine and how many designs there are. But they have pages of this. There's 30-some pages in this, and there was no way I was going to get to 30 pages. I mean, it would take you probably a week just trying to go through and find all these machines. Plus, go to hotels, go to the restaurants, downtown Disney, and everything else. If you think the West Coast is lacking, here is for the 60th anniversary. This is Disneyland. And Disneyland itself, they actually issued their own little pamphlet for collecting elongated coins. In this pamphlet, I counted 132 different designs to you would have to check off. So you can make a collection and career just doing Walt Disney World and Disneyland, just the products. And Disney continuously produces and changes the designs, putting in new creatures. If the new film comes out, they'll add a new machine. And they also have some machines They're only available to their members. They are kept in back. They only bring them out for certain events, for parties, for their cast members, and they're only ones that are allowed to do like 1 coin or 2 coins, and that's it. And I got that from some people who have been trying to get those coins, that getting cast members only coins can be very challenging because they're restricted to people employed by Disney. Here's the machine at Epcot. You can see basically there's 2 machines just put together in a cabinet. Each one has 3 designs. Each one takes 2 quarters and a cent. And you got the buttons down here to push for what design you want. Oh, one thing I also find helpful is when I do a machine like this or any machine, I have my camera or my phone. I always take a picture of the machine plus also of the designs. So I know that these 3 designs came from this machine, or these 3 came from this machine. It makes it easier for my records to know where they are and where they came from. In terms of reference, yes, we do. We have a lot of references. The Encyclopedia of the Modern Elongated. And here's the book. And if you can see, it's about well over 1,000 pages. It's by Lee Martin and Dottie Dow. And, the left book is Encyclopedia of the Modern Elongated by Angelo Rizzuto. And it's about a little over 1,000 pages. And this just came out again, reissued. You can go to the tech website, I believe, and get information on getting a copy. Yesterday's Elongated by Lee Martin and Dottie Dow. That's this one here. It's this is a reprint, but it has a lot of good information on the historical period. While the encyclopedia, if you look at the dates, it's the transition period. And here's another one, the Elongated Collector by Dottie Dow. So there are books to collect. There's also, of course, the Tech Magazine, which has a wealth of articles in it. And it's been around for, if I remember, well over 40 years. So you could also do checking the ANA website or the Numismatic portal for elongated cents or things related to, you come up with something, you go back and see where it came from. Somebody may have written about it. Pennycollector.com is a good source. It's probably the largest vendor of elongated products. They have there's their website, and they normally have covers they make that they're selling. They roll cents and they sell collections. So this is a good source to get information and buy elongated cents they produce that you may not be able to go to the site where the machine is being located. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for attending this presentation. Now, this was about a 40-minute overview, and I hope that you found it interesting. I'm more than willing to take any questions if anyone has any. I think we have about 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just a quick reminder to use the Q&A feature on your devices, and we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like we already have a couple in.
Okay.
How does an elongated coin slab as a MS63 and not as uncirculated details with elongated damage?
That's a very good question. That's one of the reasons I do not have any slab coins, because you could take a circulated coin or an uncirculated coin, run it through, and they'll slab it as uncirculated. How they grade it is their appearance of the coin, of whether they consider a 63 is versus a 65. So they don't have a typeset or anything. It's their equivalent expectation of what like a Lincoln set would look like. So the strike is critical. The impression is critical. If it's off-centered or not off-centered. If it's off-centered, you're going to get a lower grade. If it's rusty or discolored, they'll take away from that. But they don't grade it. I've never seen anything that's not MS, 60 or above, because they treat it as if it's all uncirculated. Which, if you look at the dollar I have, makes it interesting, because if you look at the design, I don't know if you can see it, there's actually wear on it. it's actually rubbed very, you know, it's been definitely in somebody's pocket, which makes, you know, lends me to believe that this was used as a pocket piece for the Empire State Building, as maybe this person visited or they wanted a memento, but it definitely has wear on it because it was in somebody's pocket, I'm guessing, with other change, and it's not crisp, but to me, it adds a lot more than something that would be uncirculated.
Absolutely. Another question asker wants to know, so the elongated cents I have all have a circular bend due to the pressing operation. Is it acceptable for collectors to flatten these coins?
No, I don't recommend it. You'll probably damage the coin. Plus, to me, it gives them the character. So I just put mine and leave it as is. And you can easily get them in the 2x2 holders or putting them in the sheets. I don't recommend trying to flatten them at all.
Good to know. Let's see. This one, more of a comment. So I think the albums made by pennycollector.com use a better type of plastic than some other brands. I've had some elongated coins in one of the Penny Collector brand albums that was sold in a Smithsonian gift shop for 10 years now with no darkening.
You would have to know the materials, and if you know that, that's true. But for most people, I just wouldn't risk it because you would actually have to know that the material would say that it's archival quality. Now, if they do, a brand does use that material, I've not seen it put on the label. So my preference is not to use the albums just because I just don't know and I'm not willing to chance it. And if they do use better materials, then maybe if they would put on their advertisement, some people would use it, but then you still have the oxidation. You know, if I use a 2x2, I can staple it closed. Those albums are not airtight unless you put them on like a baggie or something to keep the air from getting to the cents.
Absolutely. If you want the date on the cent to show, is there a consistent way to insert the coin to ensure the date side is not imprinted?
That is not imprinted or is imprinted?
For the date side to not be imprinted.
I would actually, what I would do, look at the machine. I would do a trial run. I would make sure, like, say you put a Lincoln's head, you put a Lincoln's head facing left, so you're seeing it. If you run it, you get what you like, then run every single cent that way. If you don't, then put the Lincoln to the right, you know, turn over, put it that way. But normally I find if you put the Lincoln head facing left, that works the best. But you could just run it both ways, a sample, and see, and most likely the same vendors is at that same location, so you can just then continue doing what works best.
Absolutely. Looks like a question asker is wanting is asking for the website address. I think like on the previous couple of slides you had going, you might have had. Might be able to back arrow to go.
Okay, let's see. This address?
Let me see.
Or one further up, like.
I will definitely be updated, hopefully, from this question asker shortly, but you can go ahead and just play off that one for now and can adjust if they're looking for a different one. Let's see, following this up, have the reprinted books been updated with current issues or just reprints?
Just reprints. They have not been. I've not seen any modern one because of the explosion since 1990 of machines. There is no good record of all the different machines. Disney does the best because they keep track of every machine they put in, so they know, and it's easy to get the information. But some other machine companies, they really don't keep track of, here's the tech info. They don't keep track of their dies and things like that from my experience. I've talked to some of the people that put up machines, and I asked them how long they keep them, and the answer is we keep them until we get called and be told get rid of them. Normally that happens when something closes or they change names, or they just don't want the machines anymore. So since 1990, you need to do a lot of searching, talk to tech members. If it's non-Disney or a major theme park like Universal, then it takes sometimes hunting. I have elongateds that I've done at museums that are no longer in existence because I did them 20 years ago, and the whole institute is gone. So sometimes you come across things like that, like zoos and stuff that no longer exist, or events that, you know, it was a very small county fair and somebody did some elongated cents or something. Okay.
Next up, how popular are elongated coins of like larger coins? So 25-cent, 50-cent, Morgan dollar size. Do you have any?
They're popular in terms of the historic period. I like them because they're different. Disney does have 2 or 3 machines that do quarters. I did find a machine one time that did a dime, and dimes and nickels are very rare. Quarters are probably the second most coin done, just because that's what was picked. But I like them too because it just gives something different. And anything larger than a quarter, you know, like something like this, it's going to be, you know, definitely for a collector and somebody who's willing to do it.
Absolutely. And then a follow-up question: have there ever been elongated coins for like precious metals, like gold coins?
I have seen 1 or 2 people that brought a gold coin to a dealer, and he did roll it for him because he wanted to create a unique collectible. He took like a quarter eagle, and I forget whether it was the time period, but he wrote it for them. But you know, the person spent $300 or $400 to create a unique piece. But yeah, some people have done it just to say. I saw one person, they did a 20-cent piece. They got a 20-cent coin, they bought it on the show floor, they brought it to him. He said, "You sure you want me to do this?" The guy said, "Yep." And he spent $100 some to roll a 51-cent thing.
Interesting.
People do things like that, or international coins. I've seen people do that. They bring in Canadian quarters. Canada's common because you can get them easy or whatever. And they, you know, if somebody's willing to do it, you know, why not? You could create something unique.
Oh, that's a really cool aspect of that. How many different elongated coins do you have in your collection? And is there a known largest collection?
Okay, I have a little over 3,500 unique ones because I do have duplicates, so I don't count them. I count the unique design. I know a couple of guys from the tech who have over 10,000 unique coins in their collection, unique designs. I don't know what the largest would be because there's people that do this that are not tech members. So I think anything over 10,000, you're probably in the 0.1% collecting field. I mean, to do that much, especially not to repeat designs, you want unique designs, that's a lot. But most of those people, they're also not doing it. Most of my collection is places I visited. I do have, you know, the text coins they issue. I do have the historical album, things I've been bought from the 1893 to like 1960. But the majority of the collection I have is places I visit myself and roll myself. Other people I know actually go to the vendors and buy things off the web or eBay, whatever, and they're continuously buying production coins, and you can get a much larger collection that way. So it just depends on how you define your boundaries of what you want to do. Like for me, say for Disney, anything with a Disney word on it counts. I don't distinguish whether I got it inside the park or outside the park or in the parking lot or a restaurant. If it says Disney on it with mouse, that counts. But some people, you know, they make a distinction that it has to be within the park. You know, the stuff they have now outside the park. You know, so it just depends on what you set your guidelines to be.
Absolutely. Next question coming in. For the early period of the 1890s to 1960s, how many different designs have been reported, documented, or cataloged? Following that, how does the number compare with subsequent periods like 60s to 80s and 80s to present?
The basic period, historic period, yes, there's books on it. I don't know. Dottie Dow's book, or Yesterday's Elongates, there's hundreds of designs in it. And I really don't know, there's pages like this, and they just go on and on. So I'm sure there's hundreds, but this is the whole volume. Then you go the transition period, and Rizzaro has not just technical information, but he has a lot of things in here. So that would be the second amount. At today's period, the way machines are exploding, not just in the US, but especially overseas, it's getting up to very numbers. But I have never seen like an exact number, because even today, some new varieties are found. Somebody look in a book, and I actually had some person mail me a couple designs, and I looked at them. One of them was not in my book, and it came from, the early period, but it was a design that definitely was not in the book, but somebody had a die for it. The guy said he bought the die at an auction, he ran it off, and we can't figure out if it was never used or very used locally, but it's a new design that would actually go in the early Yesterday's Elongates based on the time period of the die he was selling me.
Absolutely. And then at what point in time would you say Elongated gained popularity among collectors in the US as well as the rest of the world? Other than the US, what is the country where Elongated are most popular? With some examples if you have them.
Okay, I know I was in Australia, and pretty much any tourist place I went to Australia, in Sydney, their suburbs, Canberra, their capital, there was machines. I actually met a person who put the machines in the places. He was at I actually gave a presentation in Sydney at the Australian Numismatic Society. And they're like the US. He said, we put our machines any place we can because people spend money there. So I could tell you that they're there at every place. When I went to France, in Paris, like the Eiffel Tower, there were some machines on multiple levels. And there were some machines on the ground level, and there were machines in museums. So I think it's spreading. Same thing in Great Britain. You go to London, you could go to places. In terms of the most places that I've been to is Australia, because they seem to be following the US. They put machines every place. But Europe is not far behind. All the big tourist places seem to have, they may not call it elongated cents because they use the euro, and they use a copper planchet versus a real cent or something similar to it. But they're there, and I was surprised, and I had to go to a bank to get $1 and $2 euro coins because machines took $1 or $2 euro coins, and I forgot that you need a lot of those coins to do it because they won't give it to you in a lot of tourist spaces because they don't own the machines. So you have to go and find $1 to $2 euro equivalent dollar coins to use. They provide the copper planchet because they don't use a copper equivalent set anymore.
Gotcha. How much does the Encyclopedia of Elongated cost, and are there any good references at an affordable price range for beginners?
I don't know what the new book or the reprint is going for. I got mine a couple of decades ago, so I don't know what the price is. You could also check eBay or Amazon to see if somebody's selling one, a used one, because it may be less money, but you would have to check that. I don't know what the current price is. And how to get started, if you're a young person or something, I would subscribe to Tech because you already get a number of coins every quarter. You have a magazine that you can look for books and what people are selling. Plus, it doesn't take much to start. I've been asked at, like at, say, theme parks, why am I doing this? Because a pair will come up to me, some kids watching me, and I go, well, how much is that T-shirt you're buying at Disney? At that time, the T-shirts were $25 to $35. And I said, I could do my machine. I don't buy the t-shirts, but I could do a whole machine here for Mickey, 4 of their coins for $4. And she said, what? Yeah, these are only $1 each. So if you let your kid do this and not buy the t-shirt, you're ahead. And she said, okay, come on, let's go do Mickey that you wanted to do. And what I do is I carry this bag with me. And it's my own, it's just a Ziploc bag. In it, I have rolls of quarters. I have a tube of quarters on a paper thing. I have cents. Remember, I used the pre-1982. I just buy them like at 75 cents each or whatever. Here's a roll of the quarters. And here's some cents. I have to get another one. And for tubes, I just use the, I buy a couple of these for coins. Like this is $1 size. Works great to hold 40, 50. I have a little one here. That's my collection basket. Very inexpensive.
Absolutely.
I have something really major, like say they're doing quarters or something. I carry some 2x2 flips to put them in if I don't want to put them in the holder. But except for, the cents and quarters, I don't think I spend more than $1.50 on everything else in the bag here. So it's very affordable for young people. I've seen some young people have albums of coins. Plus, if you go to the shows, we give them away to young people, either next to nothing or for free. What I do A&A. I go to shows for the A&A because I run A&A membership tables, and I normally do shows different parts of the country. I'll give away elongateds to kids who come by because I collect them at the other shows and I bring them and just give them away. So a young person can easily put together a nice collection at really no cost, or very, very low cost compared to collecting other things.
Absolutely. It looks like we're about out of time before our next presentation is coming up. Richard, do you have any other parting words or anything?
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. You should be able to see my email there. You can also find me at the A&A website. Just look for my last name or type in my last name. My phone number is there too. I do a lot of the major shows. So I'm more than happy to answer questions or put you on the right track to, somebody who knows more than I do.
Well, we really do appreciate it, Richard. And thank you all for tuning in to this hour of the symposium. I believe our next presentation is going to be starting in about 3 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and finish up here. But thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Matthew.